As we speak, I believe Gina Haspel is still in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Gina Haspel, as you know, was, and it's been reported, the Daily Beast continues to stand behind this reporting. ProPublica backed off it just a little bit. But she oversaw a black site in Thailand where there was multiple people tortured. And yesterday, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who I do not believe was ever at that black site, but may have been somewhere else, apparently, via his lawyer, wants to submit a 6-page statement that has direct bearing on Gina Haspel. Nobody knows what it is. They're going through a lawyer right now. Mohammed was held in black sites in Afghanistan and Poland. He was subjected to to waterboarding 183 times over 15 sessions. He was stripped naked, doused with water, slapped, slammed into a wall, given rectal rehydrations without medical need, shackled into stress positions and sleep deprived for about a week by being forced to stand with his hands chained above his head. He is requested to provide unspecified information to the Intelligence Committee. I don't know if we'll ever know what that is, but the committee started out with folks from Code Pink protesting. Here is a clip of that now.
What meaning does love have in this world if we allow torture? What meaning does love have in this world if we reward torture? Those are the words of Sister Gena Ortiz, who was tortured under the CIA. No torturers in the CIA have ever been tried. We are a country without honor. That's why we allow torture. We are trying to without honor. Gina Haspel is a torture. Stop the torture. Stop the torture. Stop the torture. Stop the torture. Right now. Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Yes, you are. Support. Pick me up. Call the police officer. Stop resisting. Yes, you have.
Yeah, so a lot of those Code Pink folks reminding some of the senators, hopefully, that you don't want to reward torture, which is almost laughable at this point. But let's go in and listen to it. One of the things that Haspel also was intimately involved was that she drafted the cable by her boss, Rodriguez, I think his last name was, I think it was Frank Rodriguez, issued to destroy the video evidence of their torture. And here is Chairman Burr, Raymond Burr, asking, is it Raymond Burr? No.
Richard Burr.
Richard Burr. Raymond Burr was an actor. Richard Burr asking Haspel about those torture tapes.
Direct the destruction of the detainee interrogation videotapes. Can you describe for members your role in those events?
Senator, yes, I can. In 2005, I believe it was fall of 2005, I was Chief of Staff to the Deputy Director for Operations, that is head of the clandestine service. The tape issue had lingered at CIA for a period of about 3 years. I believe the tapes were made in 2002, and over time there was a great deal of concern about the security risk posed to CIA officers who were depicted on the tapes. Those security issues centered on the threat from Al-Qaeda should those tapes be irresponsibly leaked. Mr. Rodriguez, who was the DDO at the time, the Deputy Director for Operations, has been very upfront and has made it clear on a number of occasions publicly that he and he alone made the decision to destroy the tapes. I would also make it clear that I did not appear on the tapes, as has been mischaracterized in the press. However, as Chief of Staff, and I believe like everyone at the agency at that time, we were extremely concerned about the security risk that was posed to our officers. We were aiming to do two things: to adhere to U.S. law, but at the same time reach a resolution that would protect our officers. There were numerous legal consultations over a period of years at the agency. Our lawyers were very consistent in saying to us that there was no legal requirement to retain the tapes, no legal impediment to disposing of the tapes. I'm not a lawyer, but I believe the basis for that judgment was the fact that there was a complete and written, detailed record of the interrogations.
All right. This is incredibly disingenuous. First off, she's both wanting her cake and eating it too, right? I had no part in the decision. There was one person who made this decision. It was Jose Rodriguez. He was the head of the clandestine services. No one else involved in this. But we all shared the same feeling in terms of the rationale behind it, which of course is irrelevant if she had no part in it whatsoever. And the idea that there was no legal impediment to it is dubious at best. They didn't follow any of the standard procedures when they destroyed these tapes, which is when she drafted that memo, the standard procedure would have been to inform CIA lawyers that that memo was going out. They should have been CC'd on it. They never were. On that memo that called for the destruction of the tapes, that basically ordered the cable of their destruction. And in addition to having lawyers for Moussaoui asking for those tapes starting in 2003 ongoing for at least 2 years before they destroyed them, there was also requests from the Senate Judiciary Committee to get those tapes multiple times. There was also a judge who was pushing for the release of those tapes in the trial of Moussaoui. The DOJ lied to the court, saying that the CIA didn't have those tapes or had been lied to by the CIA. The ACLU had a FOIA request that was in, and a federal court order that was ordering the CIA to turn over those tapes. And so they were well aware of what was going on. And here is Mark Warner hammering home that point, that it is beyond credulity that Gina Haspel was not aware that there was, at the very least, a congressional action that was going to compel them to hand over those tapes.
I recognize the Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to follow up on the question around the tapes, Ms. Haspel. November 4th of 2005, then Senator Levin introduced legislation to create a commission, model on the 9/11 Commission, to look into the agency's treatment of detainees. 3 days later, you drafted the cable. 4 days later, the tapes were destroyed. Were you aware of Senator Levin's actions? And the timing seems very close to acting on behalf of potential congressional action. And in Mr. Morell's statements, there was comments that your superior, Mr. Rodriguez, was aware that 2 White House counsels, the Counsel of the Vice President, the DNI, and the DCIA, and the HPSI ranking member had all expressed opposition or reservations about the destruction of the tapes. So were you aware of those facts that Mr. Rodriguez was at least aware of, and were you aware of the actions of Senator Levin when you drafted your memo and then had the tapes subsequently destroyed?
Senator Warner, what I recall were the security issues surrounding the tapes. I don't recall pending legislation. I just don't recall
What
that.
about the issue of
Pause it for one
all of
second. The idea that she would not be aware of pending legislation involving those tapes is so impossible to even entertain as to be a joke. And the idea that it wasn't burned in her mind that, man, we got away with it. We were able to get those tapes destroyed just maybe weeks.
I feel like if Chile was considering some sort of secrecy change, the CIA would know about it, so that if America wouldn't.
Of course.
If Namibia was, I mean, and this has also been a top priority of the CIA to deal with the fallout of all of these things over the course of all of these administrations.
Well, let's reverse engineer this. If her boss can order those tapes destroyed, then her boss is intimately involved in the making of those tapes. And if her boss is intimately involved in the making of those torture tapes, the idea that she would not be completely aware of legislation that implicates those torture tapes is just, at this point, this is when every senator should get up and walk out and go, like, if you're not going to be honest with us, we're not going to waste our time.
Right. Oh, no, we were trying to create data space.
But we continue.
The tapes, I don't recall pending legislation. I just don't recall
what
that.
about the issue of all of the councils, the Council of the Vice President, DNI, Hipsing ranking member? The fact there was.
Senator, I don't know if I was aware of all of those, but I knew there was disagreement about the issue of the tapes outside the agency, and that is why we were working toward a meeting with the then director to talk about those issues and how we address those concerns of people outside the agency. So I was working toward resolution within a process.
But with that overhang, I know other members will raise this.
And then we destroyed the
timing
tapes.
seems, I hope I can get some more clarity on the timing.
Yeah, we were working towards a process to resolve it, and then we realized, let's just burn the tapes.
Like, why would we make this
Let's
so
just burn the
complicated?
torture
We
tapes.
could just get rid of the evidence.
Whoops, we can do that. So she acknowledges there was something going forward. And so the argument really is just like, I was just following orders of my boss.
Should dub her entire testimony with Richard Nixon voice.
Exactly. We have one more clip from this hearing, and we'll probably have more over the next couple of days from this Gina Haspel hearing. But here is Warner asking Haspel if torture is consistent with American values. And is this where she promises that we're not going to torture again in the future? You know what would have been a great question? Are you going to render people to other countries where torture is legal? Oh, whoops. Go ahead.
I want to make sure I take my time, though. And I heard your statement about the fact that if you're confirmed, there will never be an interrogation program under your leadership, and you address the issue of the fact that it is against the law. Question I have, with the benefit of hindsight, do you believe the program, in terms of the interrogation program, was consistent with American values?
Senator, as we sit here today, and with some distance between us and the events of 9/11, the Congress and indeed our nation have had an opportunity to have a debate about the interrogation standards we want to use as the United States of America. We have decided to hold ourselves to a stricter moral standard for DOD that is defined in the Army Field Manual. I support the United States holding itself to that stricter moral standard, and I support the Army Field Manual.
But Ms. Haspel, that is...
All right, pause it here for 1 second. We're going to go back. I want to go play that back, because here's the thing. The debate about torture did not start in 2002 or 2003 or 5 or 11 or 12 or whenever. The debate about torture was pretty much settled sometime around the Geneva Conventions, probably prior to that. Certainly in terms of domestic law, it was settled in this country in 1993. So the idea that she is now qualifying her answer by saying, well, Now that we have some distant proximity to 9/11, I can say with complete confidence. Now, of course, if we get closer to another 9/11, maybe that'll change. But the idea that we have debated torture and have come to a sort of a unique or different resolution than we had on September 10th, 2001 is a complete and total lie.
Hey, it was the aughts. Who among us didn't run a secret torture program?
It's true. Those were crazy times
Real
for black sites.
Depraved time. Also, remember when I joked about how you guys are being sexist for criticizing Haspel? Well, the GOP did take it there.
Well, let's finish this footage first.
Senator, as we sit here today, and with some distance between us and the events of 9/11, the Congress and indeed our nation have had an opportunity to have a debate about the interrogation standards we want to use as the United States of America. We have decided to hold ourselves to a stricter moral standard for DOD that is defined in the Army Field Manual. I support the United States holding itself to that stricter moral standard, and I support the Army Field Manual.
But Ms. Haspel, that is answering on a legalistic. We're asking you to take on a position. I understand with RDI, you were downstream, not part of the policy making. But if you're entrusted with this responsibility, I need to get, at least get a sense of what your moral code says about those kind of actions, because there is the potential that this president could ask you to do something. He obviously believes in these procedures, but even if he asks you to do something that is not directly related to detention and interrogation, but if he asks you to do something that you believe is morally questionable, even if there is an OLC opinion that in effect gives you a get-out-of-jail-free card, what will you do in that action when you are the director of the CIA?
Senator, my father's watching today. He served 33 years in the Air Force. My parents gave me a very strong moral compass. I support the higher moral standard that this country has decided to hold itself to. I would never, ever...
Pause it for 1 second. This country decided to hold ourselves to this moral standard 65, 70 years ago at a minimum, and she drafted that letter. She participated, at the very least, in the program after she became the head of that black site. This is just such out-and-out lies.
Also, she's being the opposite of legalistic. I mean, Warner said you're giving a legalistic answer. No, she literally just said, I support the normative choice to hold ourselves to the standards of obeying the law. That's literally what she just said. And I would also recommend, it's a little, it's pretty disgusting, but if you go back and look in there's clips available on YouTube of Jose Rodriguez bragging about this program in 2012.
Right.
And talking about the results they got from, flying in a doctor from Johns Hopkins to save a guy's life just so he could be brought back enough so that they could smack him around and waterboard him. And, looking at his own history going back, actually, in fact, to Latin America in the 1980s. Like, I wonder about the history and practices that where all of these people come from. But that's just, even that he would say, like, even when he's trying to grill her, like, I get you're being legalistic, when it's actually precisely the opposite is, I don't know. I'm not expecting anybody in this committee to even ask the rendition question.
Moral standard that this country has decided to hold itself to. I would never, ever take CIA back to an interrogation program. First of all, CIA follows the law. We followed the law then. We follow the law today. I support the law. I wouldn't support a change in the law, but I'll tell you this, I would not put CIA officers at risk by asking them to undertake risky, controversial activity again.
Wow.
There it is.
So it's a legal risk.
They decided, and then they undecided, and then they changed their minds,
But they told that they used this against Obama when he first came in some of the first meetings with CIA people. They were like, if you don't give us legal cover in general, like we will literally sit on, even things that are non-controversial, essentially. Like we're holding you hostage to the process of even beginning to hold us accountable for anything.
I will say too, the reason why Brennan could not become head of the CIA until the second term was because people, at least at the beginning of the term, cared about slightly torture, and that quieted down quite a bit, I guess, down in terms of like both Democratic senators and sort of Democrats in general. But this is the problem that you have. This is the problem that, I think people at that time also said, it's one thing you trust Barack Obama, but what if like a guy like Donald Trump became president?
We weren't even saying that. We would say like, oh, well, what about some real lunatic? Like, I don't know. He named some idiot Republican senator.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Well, hey guys, torture aside, it's time for some girl power in the CIA, as per the official GOP Twitter account.
Here you go. This is Jamie wrote up some stuff for the CIA to promote Gina Haspel. It's time for some girl power in the CIA. What else we got? Can we go back?
No.
Gina Haspel can help fix the
Jesus
CIA's
Christ.
gender problem. Yeah, because part of their torture regime, too, is also to basically squeeze the testicles of prisoners until they fall off, I guess. Maybe that's the...
Yeah, take someone with a lot of girl power to do that.
No, that actually was part of it. They liked women administering beatings and desecrating the Quran because it added the like.
That's true.
They loved playing that on the torture program.
When I made that joke, I knew it was going to be about a few days before that happened for real. So thank you, GOP.